group as members. Hello everybody, good morning. We are here to show our presentation on the topic of object-oriented programming and functions. So firstly, I want to thank to our project guide, presentation guide for Taspoon sir. And secondly, thank you for all who are presented at the moment. Dear students, here are some important points to be remembered after studying this chapter. Mainly from this chapter, there is a chance to ask a question on 5 marks in the annual examination. So dear student, this is the important chapter. So we are going to show on this presentation. After finishing this presentation, the students should be able to describe few words on this chapters. MCQ question is also important. It may ask you 1 or 3 questions. We have written some content on the basis of programming paradigm, particular object-oriented programming, structure programming, object-oriented programming, features of multiple object and class, encapsulation and data abstraction, inheritance, frame, advantage and disadvantage of OPP and application of OPP. At first, we are going to read programming paradigm. A paradigm is referred to approach the programming data language supports. This is the style or way of programming in the programming programs paradigm. Some of the major programming paradigms are particular-oriented programming, structure programming, object-oriented programming. We have written some little describe on the topic of particular-oriented programming. In particular programming, programs are organized in the forms of subroutines. The subroutines not let code specification. This technique is one suitable for medium-sized software application conventional programming using SLL, COBOL and 14. Structure programming. Structure programming is a set of particular programming that enforces a top-button design model in which developers map out the overall program structure in a separate subsections to make program more efficient and easier to understand and modify. Object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming is a paradigm in which emphasis is given rather than process. Object-oriented programming is a paradigm methodology that accesses the data structure with a set of operations which are upon it. In other words, OOP is a method of implementation in which programs are organized as cooperative and collection of objects. Some of the examples of object-oriented programming are C++, Python, Visual Basic, Unity, and Java etc. And here is the characteristics of object-oriented programming are as follows. Emphasis on data rather than process. It means that emphasis is given rather than particular. Programs are divided into objects, and programs in object-oriented programming programs are divided into objects. Data is hidden and cannot accessed by external functions. Objects can communicate with each other through functions. New data and function can be easily added whenever necessary. Flow button up of that. Here is the drawing of organization of data and function. Data and function. It moves like a circle form. And I like to give my members to describe what they want on this. Feature of OPP, class and objects. Encapsulation and data abstraction, inheritance and parallelism. Object is an entity, things or organization that exists in the real world that controls of that objects of two fundamental characteristics, attributes and behavior. Class. A class is the organization of similar objects. It is defined as a template of prototype to define the functions and attributes behaviors for all the objects of a class. Encapsulation. Encapsulation is the way of organizing data and function into structures by controlling the way the object is implemented. Abstraction. Abstraction is the act of representing essential feature without including the background data. Polymorphism refers to the ability of an object to take on different forms depending upon its structure. Two examples of polymorphism are the gravitate and diamond. Each of the forms have its own distinct properties. Inheritance, the process of creating a new class from the existing class into the object of a new class. Inheritance, the attributes and behaviors of the existing class is known as inheritance. And I like to describe my members.
Thank you, friend Sagar. Good morning, everyone. This is Samna Bhakti from grade 11. Today I am here to explain class and object. Class is a data type, it's a built object. It is the prototype of model. Do not object memory located. It cannot be manipulated because it is not available in the memory. Object is an list of class data types. It gives life to a class. It is appointed from the string factors. It occupies memory location. It can be manipulated. Thank you. I would like to call my friends immediately.
Good morning everyone, myself Sripati Silva. Today I am going to explain about advantage of oriented. So we can eliminate redundant force by using inherent features of OPP. It is very easy for managing complex and large size problems. The most important is the velocity, of course, by using the features of the games. It takes little less time for the development and maintaining the software. It can be implemented in the field of OOPMS, Object-Oriented Database Management System, and Object-Oriented Always Analyze and Design and other different fields. And the disadvantage of OPP is the benefit of OPP may be realized after a long period. Programming has to think differently, requires intensive testing procedures. Solving a problem using OOP approach consumes more time than the time taken by structured programming approach. And the application of OPP is the mobile computing, data security and management, image processing, object-oriented database system, intelligent system, web-based application, distributed computing and application, data warehousing and data mining. And I would like to enjoy this system.
Thank you, Sripati. Here is the comparison of structured programming and object programming. Structured programming focus on particular rather than data. Programs are divided into small modules called functions. It follows top-down approach of programming designs. Maintaining and enhancing programs code is still difficult because of global data. Since there is no concept of inheritance, so code everything is difficult. Example of structured programming are COBOL, Pascal, etc. and the object-oriented programming focus on data rather than particular. Programs are divided into object. It bottom-up approach of programming designs. Maintaining and enhancing programs code is easier. It supports inheritance, so it is easy to describe the code. Example of OPP are C++, Java, and Smalltalk. Functions. Function can be defined as a block of codes that perform a particular task. There are two types of functions: library function and predefined function. Or library function is called a predefined or built-in function because these functions are predefined, compile and trace. See library, user-defined functions which are developed by the programs or users at the time of writing program are user-defined function. User-defined functions are developed to meet the specific requirement of a program. Categories of user-defined functions. There are four types of categories of user-defined functions. Function without argument and no return values, function with argument and no return values, function with argument and return value, function without argument and return values. And elements of or component of function are at first it is a declare called function and definition. This is a function without argument and no return value. Without argument means therefore there is no value of we can understand by here, and therefore this is a declare and calling function and definition we can understand by it, and this is a function with argument with and no return value. It means there is a argument like int is called a is b is calling functions and top declare, and at last there is a definition. Definition means we can also say display of functions, and with argument and with return value means there is Also arguments we can understand in int sum, int and int divisor with arguments, and no and return value means int a, b, x we can understand by it. And the first is declare, second calling function, and this definitions. And without argument and no return value. Without argument means like we can understand in int into sum there is no arguments, we can understand it. And return value means int is equal to x, we can understand like this. And at first there is a declare, secondly function calling, and at last definition and display. This much all the students, thank you for everyone for taking part in this presentation. Have a great day. Thank you.